What exactly is a vulnerability? We talked about process of gaining access and making target execute our commands, but let us explain what happens once we exploit a vulnerability. Well, let's start like this. And trust me, if it sounds a little complicated, it will be more clear once we get to practical examples in the next few videos. For now, let's explain it like this. We know that developers write programs. They use their code, which can be written in any language, whether it is Python, Java, C, or some other language. The goal for developer is to create a software using a programming language. And as we mentioned, that software can be based on any language whatsoever. Once the software is complete and it goes through a few test checks and security checks, then that software gets deployed on machines and it can be ran from those machines. This can be any type of software, it doesn't matter. However, the problem occurs once that software is open to the internet. For example, FTP is open on some machines and servers for file transfer protocol. SSH could also be open for secure shell connection. HTTP could be open to host a web page that clients connect to. Basically, if your software is hosted on an open port, then it is also open for possible attacks from the outside. And as we already know that the software is consisted of code that developers wrote, problem occurs if that code is not well written, if it has some bugs. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that if there is a bug, that we can exploit the target, but sometimes those bugs can be critical, and the attacker could use that bug to make software act in a way that it is not intended to. That's called exploitable vulnerability. Usually once exploited, we drop a payload or a shell back, so we can control that machine and do what we want with it. Once a bug or vulnerability is discovered, it gets that name that we've seen for vulnerabilities in Nessus that starts with CVE, and then the year of when the vulnerability first occurred. A vulnerability that exists and has not been patched yet by the vendors is called 0 day. Usually as soon as critical 0 day is discovered, it gets patched almost immediately, but you will see examples of 0 days that were used for months before anyone found out about them. The most known recent one was in 2017, when the WannaCry ransomware occurred and infected a bunch of hospitals and police stations. It was based on an exploit called Eternal Blue, which was created and used by NSA. They never reported it and used it for their attacks until those exploits got stolen from them and got leaked. We will see in this course a lot of recent 0 days that are now patched. Some of them will even be as recent as just a few months ago. However, all of this makes sense if the target has a vulnerability. But remember, vulnerabilities don't always have to be of technical nature. Imagine a company with a bunch of networks, servers and machines, fully secured and also protected by the best firewall. No security holes, no vulnerabilities. We can't even scan the target to figure out its infrastructure because its protection is so good. Now, imagine an employee that works there. Let's call him John. And let's focus on John at the moment. John likes cars. He usually searches for car pictures and videos while working. One day he gets an email from a person that has email name exactly the same as his colleague. In that email, there is a car picture. He sees that the email is coming from his colleague, so he doesn't question it. Therefore, he opens that picture at work, and it indeed is a car picture. But little does he know, that email was us spoofing an email for him, so that at the first glance it looks like it comes from his colleague, and that picture opened a car image, but it also ran our malicious program in the background. What happens next? Now, John's work computer is infected, and he doesn't even know it. And from his computer, we can compromise the entire network and the entire inside of that company. Now, this is just an example, but stuff like this happens a lot. Matter of fact, most of the hacking that happens that you read about happens this way, and not by someone finding a 0 day vulnerability on a fully secured company. Remember, people are always the weakest spot, So if you can hack something through them, why would you bother trying to discover a technical vulnerability that might not even be there? In the next video, we're only left to talk briefly about shells and different types of shells that we want to drop once exploiting the target. After that, we are ready to get our hands dirty and start gaining access to our target machine. See you in the next video.